Do you know of Valens, the emperor who fell at the great Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD? For I am that man. Let me introduce myself to you. I am Flavius Julius Valens, a name that echoes through the corridors of history. My story is one of triumph and tragedy, ambition and downfall. Journey with me and let us uncover the layers of my life, reign, and the legacy I left behind. I was born around 328 AD in the Roman province of Pannonia, in what is now modern-day Croatia, a land of sweeping plains and bustling towns. My older brother and later emperor, Valentinian, and I were inseparable from a young age. We would often play in the fields, our laughter mingling with the whispers of the wind, or lean together from our tutors in the atrium, absorbing the knowledge that would one day shape our destinies. In the garden, we would walk for hours, discussing politics, dreams, and the future of the empire we would one day serve. Our father, Gratianus Major, was a respected soldier, and from him we inherited not only a strong sense of duty, but also the understanding of the harsh realities of Roman politics and warfare. My mother, an honorable Roman matron, had had her name lost to history. My early education was rigorous, filled with lessons on rhetoric, philosophy, and the art of war. The tutors were relentless, drilling into us the importance of wisdom and strength. Yet, it was the moments spent with Valentinian that truly molded my character. His determination and leadership qualities were traits I admired and aspired to emulate. As the years passed, the empire grew increasingly unstable. The pressures of managing vast territories and external threats loomed large over our heads. But for now, my life was relatively peaceful, a calm before the storm. The bond with my brother was my anchor, providing a sense of stability in a world that seemed perpetually on the brink of chaos. Little did I know, the tranquility of our youth would soon be shattered. The path ahead was fraught with challenges and decisions that would shape the fate of the empire and my own destiny. In the shadows of our childhood games and academic pursuits, the seeds of future conflicts were already being sown. The transition from a carefree youth to a leader of men was swift and brutal. When our father passed, Valentinian ascended to power, and I followed closely behind. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders, and the days of leisurely walks and playful banter faded into memory. We were no longer just brothers. We were emperors, entrusted with the survival of Rome. But even as we stepped into our roles, the specter of betrayal loomed large. Procopius, a distant relative and usurper, would soon challenge my authority, testing my resolve and the strength of my reign. As I prepared to confront this threat, the lessons of my youth echoed in my mind, reminding me of the values I held dear and the battles that lay ahead. In the chapter, as we delve into my ascension to the throne, the intrigues of power, and the relentless struggle to maintain the integrity of the empire. The journey is just beginning, and the stakes have never been higher. My ascension to the throne, a period marked by intrigue, betrayal, and the heavy mantle of leadership. The year was 364 AD. Our father had passed, leaving a vacuum of power and a realm teetering on the edge of chaos. My brother Valentinian, with his unwavering resolve and commanding presence, was the natural choice for the Western throne. On March 28th, 364, amidst a gathering of military and political leaders, he was proclaimed emperor. but the empire was too vast for one man to govern alone. Recognizing the need for shared power, Valentinian appointed me as co-emperor, entrusting me with the eastern provinces. The transition from brother to ruler was abrupt. One moment, I was the loyal sibling, and the next, I was Flavius Julius Valens, Emperor of the East. The enormity of my new role weighed heavily on me, but Valentinian's support and our shared vision for Rome's future provided a measure of reassurance. Together, we pledged to restore stability and strength to our fractured empire. However, the calm was short-lived. No sooner had I settled in Constantinople than the specter of rebellion reared its head. Procopius, a distant relative of the former Emperor Julian, declared himself emperor in September 365. His claim was not without merit. He had the support of many disgruntled soldiers and officials who viewed me as an unworthy successor. The news of Procopius's revolt hit me like a thunderbolt. I was in Antioch, far from the heart of the rebellion, but there was no time to lose. Mobilizing my forces, I marched towards Constantinople, determined to quash this threat to my rule. The journey was grueling. The nights filled with anxiety and the days with the relentless pace of the march. Along the way, doubts crept into my mind. Would my own men remain loyal? Could I trust those around me? As we approached Constantinople, the situation grew more dire. Procopius had gained significant support, and his forces were well entrenched. The city itself was a fortress, its walls imposing and seemingly impregnable. Yet, as fate would have it, Procopius's arrogance proved to be his undoing. Many of his troops, disillusioned by his leadership, deserted him at the crucial moment. On May 27, 366, Procopius was betrayed and captured, ending his brief and ill-fated bid for power. With the rebellion quelled, my authority was solidified, but the experience left an indelible mark on me. Trust, I realized, was a fragile thing in the world of politics. I could no longer afford to be the naive younger brother. I had to become the vigilant emperor, ever watchful for threats both within and beyond the empire. In the aftermath of Procopius's defeat, I turned my attention to the external threats that loomed large. The Visigoths, emboldened by their earlier support of Procopius, were threatening to invade Thrace. In May 367, I crossed the Danube and struck at their heartlands, devastating their territories. 2 years later, in 369, I invaded their lands again, achieving a decisive victory that momentarily quelled their ambitions. But the Visigoths were not the only threat. The Persian Empire, ever a thorn in Rome's side, demanded my attention as well. In 371, I faced a conspiracy in Antioch, but by 376, the simmering conflict with the Persians forced me into an unfavorable peace. Amid these struggles, I also waged a different kind of war, a war of faith. As an Arian Christian, I persecuted the Catholics, banishing bishops and sowing discord within the church. Each victory, each challenge, was a lesson learned and a step further into the labyrinth of leadership. The decisions I made, the battles I fought, all were leading to a pivotal moment in my reign, a moment that would come to define my legacy. Next, we'll explore the critical decisions that led me to invite the Visigoths into the empire, setting the stage for the catastrophic events that followed. The journey continues, with each step taking us closer to the fateful Battle of Adrianople. The path of an emperor is fraught with difficult decisions and unforeseen consequences. As we journey further into my reign, we encounter one of the most significant and controversial choices I ever made the decision to bring the Visigoths into the empire. This decision, shaped by necessity and desperation, would ultimately lead to one of the most disastrous events in Roman history. In 375, I comforted my brother Valentinian as he was dying of a stroke that in Sirmium. His death took me hard. In the year 376 AD, the Huns, a fierce and relentless people from the steppes of Asia, began their westward expansion. They were a storm sweeping across the land, leaving devastation in their wake. The Visigoths, a Germanic tribe, found themselves in the direct path of this unstoppable force. Defeated and desperate, they sought refuge within the borders of the Roman Empire. It was a decision that weighed heavily on my mind. The Visigoths, led by Fritigern, pleaded for sanctuary. In return, they offered their loyalty and military service. At first glance, it seemed like a mutually beneficial arrangement. Rome would gain thousands of new soldiers, and the Visigoths would find safety from the Hunnic onslaught. But the reality was far more complex. Allowing the Visigoths to settle in Thrace and Moesia was not a decision I made lightly. The empire was already stretched thin, its resources depleted by constant warfare and internal strife. We needed allies, and the Visigoths, if managed properly, could bolster our defenses. However, the execution of this plan was deeply flawed. Corruption and incompetence among my officials led to the mistreatment of the Visigoths. They were given inadequate supplies and faced harsh conditions which fueled resentment and anger. As tensions escalated, Fritigern and his people began to see the Romans not as saviors, but as oppressors. What started as a promise of refuge quickly turned into a volatile situation. The Visigoths, pushed to the brink, rebelled against their Roman hosts. It was a powder keg waiting to explode, and the empire was ill-prepared to handle the fallout. In the midst of these challenges, my brother Valentinian died in 375 AD. His passing left a void in my life and in the leadership of the Western Empire. While my nephew Gratian took the Western throne, the burden of managing the Eastern Empire fell squarely on my shoulders. The bond I had with Valentinian, the shared dreams and responsibilities, were now memories that haunted me. The times we played in the fields, leaned together from our tutors, and discussed politics in the gardens seemed like a distant past, overshadowed by the pressing demands of rulership. The rebellion of the Visigoths was a direct threat to my authority and to the stability of the empire. My efforts to negotiate peace and restore order were met with limited success. The Visigoths, now a formidable force, roamed the countryside, raiding towns and villages. The empire, already weakened by internal divisions and external pressures, struggled to contain this new menace. Amidst this turmoil, the specter of the Huns loomed ever larger. Their relentless advance pushed other Germanic tribes towards our borders, creating a cascading crisis that threatened to overwhelm us. The decisions I made during this period were driven by a desperate need to stabilize the situation, but each choice seemed to lead to further complications. As the situation with the Visigoths deteriorated, I knew that a decisive confrontation was inevitable. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of the empire and my legacy as its ruler. The road ahead was fraught with danger, and the outcome uncertain. In our next chapter, we will face the Battle of Adrianople, a moment that would forever alter the course of history. Join me as we march towards that fateful day where the fate of an empire and the legacy of an emperor would be decided on the blood-soaked fields of Thrace. The decisions and challenges of my reign have led us to this fateful juncture, the Battle of Adrianople. It is a moment in history that would forever change the Roman Empire and seal my fate. The year was 328 AD. The Visigoths, once refugees, were now a formidable force, threatening the very heart of the empire. The unrest and rebellion that had simmered for years had finally reached a boiling point. My attempts to quell the Visigothic uprising through negotiation and smaller skirmishes had failed, and it was clear that a decisive confrontation was inevitable. I gathered my forces and prepared for what I knew would be a defining battle. The Roman army, though experienced and disciplined, was stretched thin. Morale was shaky, and the troops were weary from years of constant warfare and political instability. Yet, despite these challenges, we marched forward with determination. As we approached the plains near Adrianople, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on me. I knew that my decisions in the coming hours would not only determine the outcome of the battle, but also the future of the Roman Empire. My nephew Gratian was supposed to join us with reinforcements, but communication was slow, and there was no sign of his arrival, and we didn't wait, a flaw that would cost us victory. The day of the battle dawned hot and oppressive. My advisors urged caution, suggesting we wait for Gratian's reinforcements, but the situation was dire, and the Visigoths were emboldened, their numbers swelled by allies and deserters. In a moment of overconfidence and perhaps desperation, I decided to engage the enemy without waiting for Gratian. The battlefield was a chaotic expanse of dust and noise. As we advanced, the Visigoths, led by Fritigern, took a defensive position on a hill. It was a strategic vantage point, and as we charged, their cavalry, commanded by Alathius and Saphrax, descended upon us like a thunderbolt. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus would later describe the scene, noting how the Goths descended from the mountain like a thunderbolt, shattering our lines. Our initial assault was met with fierce resistance. The Visigothic cavalry cut through our ranks, and soon the battlefield was a maelstrom, blood and confusion. My attempts to rally the troops were in vain. The disciplined Roman legions were overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity and numbers of the Visigothic forces. In the midst of the chaos, I found myself separated from my main forces. The heat of the battle was suffocating. The screams of the wounded and dying filled the air. Despite the overwhelming odds, I fought with all the strength and determination I could muster. But the tide was against us. The Visigoths, driven by desperation and a desire for revenge, were relentless. As the battle raged on, the Roman army began to crumble. What was supposed to be a strategic engagement turned into a disastrous rout. Between 20,000 and 40,000 Roman soldiers perished that day, one of the worst defeats in Roman history. Amid the carnage, I fell. Accounts vary, but it is said that I was either killed by an arrow or perished in a burning building where I sought refuge. In either case, I was numbered among the fallen. The aftermath of Adrianople was catastrophic. The Roman Empire, already weakened, was dealt a blow from which it would never fully recover. My death marked not just the end of my reign, but also the beginning of a new era of vulnerability for Rome. The Visigoths, once seen as refugees, now roamed the empire as conquerors, their power and influence growing with each passing day. The loss at Adrianople exposed the vulnerabilities of the Roman military and highlighted the deep-seated issues within the empire. It was a turning point, a harbinger of the decline that would eventually lead to the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The Battle of Adrianople marked the end of my reign, but the consequences of my decisions rippled through the annals of history. My legacy is a complex tapestry of ambition, misjudgment, and unintended consequences. Let us delve into how my actions brought Rome closer to its inevitable decline. In the wake of Adrianople, the Roman Empire was left reeling. The devastating loss not only weakened our military might, but also shattered the aura of invincibility that had surrounded Rome for centuries. The Visigoths, emboldened by their victory, continued to plague the empire, their presence a constant reminder of our vulnerability. My decision to allow the Visigoths into the empire was driven by a combination of desperation and pragmatism. The Huns, a terrifying force from the steppes, had pushed the Visigoths to our borders. In a moment of crisis, I saw an opportunity to bolster our forces with their numbers. But the execution of this plan was marred by corruption and mismanagement, leading to the very rebellion I had hoped to avoid. The ramifications of this decision were far-reaching. The Visigothic victory at Adrianople emboldened other barbarian groups, leading to a cascade of invasions and settlements within the empire's borders. The traditional Roman way of life was increasingly challenged by these new groups, and the cultural and political fabric of the empire began to unravel. Yet, my legacy is not solely defined by the Battle of Adrianople. My reign saw significant efforts to stabilize and strengthen the Eastern Roman Empire. My campaigns against the Visigoths prior to their rebellion were initially successful, and my efforts in Mesopotamia against the Persians showcased the resilience and tenacity of Roman arms. However, these victories were overshadowed by the catastrophic defeat at Adrianople. Religiously, my adherence to Arian Christianity and my persecution of Catholics further divided an already fractured society. By banishing bishops and creating religious strife, I inadvertently weakened the unity of the empire at a time when solidarity was crucial. My policies created deep-seated divisions that would haunt the empire for generations. Reflecting on my life and reign, I see a series of decisions made under immense pressure, each with the hope of preserving the empire I loved. The weight of leadership often forces choices that seem necessary in the moment but have unforeseen consequences. My actions, driven by a desire to protect and strengthen Rome, ultimately contributed to its vulnerability. History, however, is not merely a tale of failures and missteps. It is a tapestry woven with the threads of human endeavor, ambition, and resilience. My story is but one chapter in the grand narrative of the Roman Empire. The lessons learned from my reign serve as a testament to the complexities of leadership and the unpredictable nature of fate. Thank you for walking this path with me, for delving into the life and legacy of Valens. The echoes of history remind us of our shared humanity and the enduring quest for greatness, even in the face of insurmountable odds. As you continue your exploration of Roman history, remember the complexities and nuances that define each story and the timeless lessons they impart. As we near the conclusion of this journey, I encourage you to explore the broader tapestry of Roman history. My story, filled with triumphs and tragedies, is just one piece of a vast and intricate mosaic. The rise and fall of empires, the struggles and successes of leaders, and do the tales and tribulations of folks just like yours, they all offer invaluable lessons for you today. As you can see, My friends, making the right decisions can be difficult even for an emperor. Many more of our emperors died by the hands of our fellow countrymen than they did at the hands of an enemy, like I did. And even those enemies by which I fell were under our protection in our borders. Our failures to better incorporate the Goths in our realm led to our dramatic losses at Adrianople. Knowing how to govern effectively can save lives, a lesson I impart to you and your era. Immigration is important, but must be done effectively, a lesson I only learned too late. Immigration was as important to the Roman Empire as it is in your modern era, including the movement of the Goths and other barbarian tribes who played a significant role in the Roman Empire for several reasons. The Roman Empire constantly required a large and capable military to defend its vast borders and maintain order within its territories. Recruiting soldiers from immigrant populations like the Goths helped bolster the Roman legions. These new recruits provided essential manpower, especially during times when native Roman citizens were less inclined or available to serve in the military. Immigrants contributed to the Roman economy in various ways. They engaged in agriculture, trade, and craftsmanship, which were vital for the economic stability and growth of the empire. The Goths and other immigrant groups brought new skills, labor, and innovation, helping to sustain the economy and support the empire's extensive infrastructure and public services. The Roman Empire faced significant population declines due to plagues, wars, and other factors. Immigration helped to stabilize and even increase the population, which was crucial for maintaining the workforce and ensuring the continuation of social and economic activities. A stable or growing population also helped maintain the empire's tax base, which was necessary for funding military campaigns and public works. Immigrants brought diverse cultural practices, knowledge, and traditions which contributed to the rich tapestry of Roman culture. The integration of various peoples and their customs helped to create a more cosmopolitan and resilient society. This cultural exchange fostered innovation and adaptability, allowing the empire to evolve and incorporate beneficial aspects of different cultures. The settlement of immigrant groups along the empire's borders served as buffer zones against more hostile forces. By granting land and certain rights to groups like the Goths, the Romans aimed to create a first line of defense against invasions from other barbarian tribes such as the Huns and external threats. These buffer zones provided an additional layer of security for the core regions of the empire. During my reign, the Huns emerged as a formidable threat to the Eastern Roman Empire. Their swift military campaigns and nomadic lifestyle posed a direct challenge to our borders and stability. The arrival of the Huns forced neighboring tribes, such as the Visigoths, to seek refuge within our territory, escalating tensions and complicating internal affairs. Diplomatically, we navigated precarious treaties and alliances to manage these new dynamics, striving to balance defensive measures with the need for peaceful coexistence. Military encounters with the Huns were frequent and taxing. Their expertise in cavalry warfare and strategic maneuvers tested our legion's capabilities, often diverting crucial resources away from internal development and infrastructure. Despite the adversities they brought, the Huns also brought cultural exchange. Interactions with Hunnic tribes introduced new military strategies and cultural elements into Roman society, enriching our traditions while also highlighting vulnerabilities in our defense strategies. This period marked a pivotal juncture in our history, where external pressures from the Huns hastened the decline of the Roman Empire in the West, contributing to its eventual fragmentation and fall. The Huns left an indelible mark on my reign and the fate of the empire. Their relentless advances and cultural influences reshaped the Eastern Roman Empire's trajectory, underscoring the complexities of managing external threats and internal stability during a time of profound change and challenge. Granting asylum and integrating immigrant groups, like incorporating the Goths, could have led to valuable political alliances. By incorporating the Goths and other tribes into the empire, the Romans sought to secure their loyalty and support. These alliances were strategically important for maintaining regional stability and countering the influence of rival powers. While immigration offered numerous benefits, it also posed significant challenges. The integration of large groups like the Goths was not always smooth and often led to tensions and conflicts. Mismanagement, corruption, and inadequate support for the immigrants could result in unrest and rebellion, as seen with the Gothic revolt leading to the Battle of Adrianople. Immigration was crucial for the Roman Empire's military, economic, demographic, cultural, and political stability. However, the success of such integration depended heavily on effective governance and the ability to manage and assimilate diverse populations. For more information on immigration in the Roman Empire, check out my related video. I would be remiss, my new friend, if I didn't imbue a truth that we knew in our day, but seems to be lost amongst many in yours. There is only one race, one species of humanity. Race was never a scientific concept and didn't take its modern definition until the 18th century, and in large part was used as a guise and justification of colonizing half the world and enslaving half as more. We may have fought with enemies such as the Goths or the Huns or even the Carthaginians before, but we didn't think they were lesser beings, although through our own pomp and pretension, we often found many lacking in our art, sciences, and refinement, much to our own loss. After all, it was the Arabs and Islam who kept science alive after it was lost to many on these shores. What would have been our fate had we better incorporated the Goths into the empire and we embraced science like the Arabs and the geniuses of the Renaissance thereafter? Your Watson and Crick has already found the vine of life, our DNA, 99.9% the same. Had we that technology, would Rome be colonizing the heavens today? A topic for a video coming soon. Please care to remember, my friend, even those who wore the purple and the laurel before me came from many lands with many colors. Emperors from Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia. We were a diverse bunch, more diverse than most of your governments these days. We also had empresses who reigned in their own right. We're all more alike than we are dissimilar. These were the lessons I learned in my final breaths. For as long as one draws breath, it is never too late to learn. Here are a couple of suggestions to help you see the woven threads of the fabric of civilization. The first is ancient coin collecting, a time-honored hobby of popes, princes, presidents, and potentates. For some, especially in your modern world, it would take a flight or some other more environmentally friendly method hours or days to see anything of any historical significance. Those who don't live with that legacy of cultural heritage may be missing out on a large part of what that history has to offer, including our place inside it. And you may be less apt to support the arts, sciences, culture, and preservation and conservation than if you had the exposure, whether by proximity or accessibility and time, that wealth affords. Everyone who ever was and will be is weaving their own thread on that tapestry of humanity. Ancient coin collecting brings the past to life in a tangible and physical way, and it can be a great investment. There are other ways, of course, to engage in history. Read a book or watch one of the other fine YouTube videos out there and hear the other voices of Imperial Rome in the rest of this series, My Life as a Roman Emperor. Peruse a guidebook about a location to learn more of its history. Take a learning and historical vacation and stand at the site of the Battle of Adrianople, or seeks the azure waters of my Adriatic homeland in modern-day Croatia. While you're there, check out the famous Great Waterfall, Veliki Slap, at Plitvice Lakes National Park, and be sure to visit Diocletian's Palace in Split, a city famous for another throne, I hear. Taking a holiday and being where history happened makes it real. Even planning builds the interest and the excitement in the endeavor. For a true experiential journey, do a language immersion program in a new country. Learn the local customs and cultures of locals. Had I done that with the Goths, things might have turned out a lot differently for me and the Empire. Make a stranger from a new land, a new friend, and if you really want to make a difference, volunteer at an archaeological dig, watch our channel's video, Unearthing Secrets, the Fascinating World of Archaeology, for more information. Or volunteer to help a historically marginalized group in your own backyard. And to protect our history, culture, and historic sites, we need to end climate change and wars that destroy treasures and knowledge gained through the ages. Do you remember the looting and destruction of the Great Museum of Antiquities in Baghdad, or the Great Fire of the Library closer to my day? I hear you still don't have concrete as good as that of ancient Rome. What does the world know of Carthage before its fall? All the knowledge lost to history. Western civilization is a tale of beauty and blood, a stain on the fabric of our shared tapestry. Many of your modern woes are done at the hands, or more likely, the command of others through the rich and powerful, much as it was done in my day. The senatorial class kept power by the subjugation of the other classes in a myriad of ways. A topic for another video, coming soon, in our day in the life in the Roman Empire. Maybe by understanding the class structure in ancient Rome, you'll be able to see it clearer and the issues it causes in strife and culture wars in your modern day. Your democracy is truly at risk if you continue to let the unsavory voices of hatred, ignorance, and closed-mindedness be allowed to fester. Every endeavor and field of study is history and relates to it in meaningful ways. What lessons have been learned since the plague of Cyprian, of COVID-19? In sociology, they talk of intersectionality and how different marginalized groups have commonalities. In economics, they speak of externalities, costs of doing business that actually aren't added to the costs to the business or society. Think pollution runoff in the extremes, all the more likely with the latest Supreme Court decision in June of 2024. In historical terms, we use the term holistic. History, much like intersectionality in sociology and externalities in economics, benefits from a holistic approach. Each of these disciplines recognizes and analyzes the interconnected and complex nature of their subjects. Historians, for instance, study past events by considering a wide array of factors such as political developments, social structures, economic conditions, cultural trends, and technological advancements. By integrating these various elements, historians aim to construct a comprehensive narrative that captures the full scope of historical phenomena and their impacts on societies. Similarly, intersectionality in sociology examines how different social identities, such as race, gender, class, and sexuality intersect and interact to shape individuals' experiences and societal dynamics. This framework acknowledges that people experience multiple forms of privilege and oppression simultaneously, leading to a more nuanced understanding of social inequalities and power dynamics. In economics, the concept of externalities expands the traditional focus on market transactions to include the unintended consequences, positive or negative, of economic activities on third parties and the environment. Economists study these externalities to develop policies that account for the broader impacts of economic decisions beyond immediate participants, fostering a more sustainable and equitable economic framework. By adopting holistic approaches, historians, sociologists, and economists seek to provide more comprehensive analyses of their respective fields. This approach encourages scholars to consider the interdependencies and complexities inherent in human societies, enabling a deeper understanding of historical processes, social structures, and economic dynamics. Ultimately, a holistic perspective allows for richer insights and more informed strategies for addressing contemporary challenges and shaping future developments in these disciplines. Thank you for watching. Our channel, known as the Renaissance Spirit, is dedicated to the pursuits of a just, equitable, and humanitarian world. Video topics encompass areas including history, politics, religion, personal development, society, culture, social and environmental justice, and other topics of liberal arts and sciences, including ancient Rome and the Roman Empire, which is a great comparison and contrast of the modern world. Topics perfect for the true modern polymath. The Renaissance ushered in a golden age and the pursuit of knowledge. Knowledge both lost to time and yet to be discovered. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, embracing truth, knowledge, and an understanding and compassion for humanity and our shared history opens up the world to each of us, individually, and improves all of humanity, affording us the opportunity to be better stewards of the earth and to each other. The Renaissance Spirit, more than just a philosophy or style, but a style for living, learning, growing, and thinking. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. If you're looking to explore and experience what life has to offer, I'm sure you'll enjoy the other videos on my channel. Please peruse and let me know in the comments what you get out of them and what other videos you'd like to see. But first, please take the quiz next to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. Farewell, my friend, and may the wisdom of the past guide you in the present and the future. Live the Renaissance spirit. And now Adrianople's call. Enjoy.
Valens marched across the land. Eastern winds and whispers blow, foretold the story yet untold. Visigoths of city gates, empire in a perilous state. Valens hoped to make a stand, but fate held other plans so grand. Oh, Valens, your reign did fall in the shadow of Adrian's hostel. You opened the gates, let the Visigoths in, but met your fate by the hand in the end. Echoes of battle cries still heard, empire lost without a word. History's written in the stone, the cries of Rome now stand alone. Empire crumbles shot by shot. Legacy now modern scarred. Valens follow whispered tale. In the winds of history it hails. Oh, Valens, your reign did fall. In the shadow of Adrian's hall, you open the gates. Let the Visigoths in, but let your fate by their hand in the end. Echoes of battle cry still heard. Empire lost without a word. History's written in the stone. The cries of Rome now stand alone. Empire crumbles shot by shot.